for the business and entrepreneurship sectors, and I'll be moderating this session today. So thank you all for joining. By joining, you likely know that AI is poised to significantly reshape the workforce. So from engineering to accounting to recruiting to product management, we have a wide range of perspectives and experience represented on the panel today. So before we jump to the panel, I'll start with some housekeeping items. We'll be starting with introductions and then 4 pre-prepared questions. And then we'll be turning it over to Q&A from the audience. So please feel free throughout the session to drop any questions that you have for any of the panelists in the chat. And this event will be recorded. So we'll be sharing it on our SU Career Center YouTube channel. So you can check that out in the next week. And so from there, let's go to introductions, and I'll start with a very brief introduction of myself. I am actually fairly new to the Career Center here, but I love being part of the Bronco community. Go Broncos! This is a really awesome place to be. And prior to this role, I spent the last 9 years in recruiting. And so in that time, I had the absolute pleasure of working with the talent acquisition leader, Kim Thomas Lopez, who's on this panel today. So Kim, if you can kick us off with introductions, introduce yourself, a little bit about your education and your career journey to this point.
Sure. Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. I'm Kim Thomas, and I am a talent acquisition leader. I have been in talent acquisition for many, many years. Started out at San Francisco State University and went on to Golden Gate University. I've been in many different industries, finance, healthcare, technology. Worked with Mary over a number of years at Intuitive. I have a son who just recently graduated college, so definitely this is near and dear to my heart. And I'm very happy to be here. So thank you, Mary.
Thank you. All right, Jeff, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. So pleased to be here. I think this is a vitally important topic, and I think there's a lot we can edify people with what we share today. So my name is Jeff Clavin. My background in undergrad was management information systems and human factors engineering, and I completed an MBA at Santa Clara University some time ago and did a little postgrad work at Stanford. My career has focused on cybersecurity before it was a hot topic, and I helped build the practice at Accenture. Worked with a lot of leading high-tech companies like Applied Materials, Cadence Design Systems. Maybe my favorite was Stanford Research Institute, and I'll talk about some of the AI work I did there. But really pleased to join such a wonderful panel today. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I love that Jeff is also representing the stellar SCU faculty that we have here. So he teaches and interacts with law students, grad business students, engineering students. So he brings a lot of great experience to this panel as well.
Thank you.
Casey, we'll go to you.
All right. I have to say this is such a fun way to introduce the panel is with this amazing chat that we got going on, folks from all over the place, including Japan. Amazing. Okay, so myself, I'm Casey. I am Director of Technology and Innovation for a mid-tier boutique accounting advisory and technology advisory firm called Connor Group. I am an avid AI enthusiast. I love it. I use it in any way I possibly can, hence why I am one of the earliest folks that has AI in the title that is around here. So my background is I'm a psychology and business admin major in undergrad and stayed on to get my master's in accounting from the University of Southern California. I spent a total of over 7 or 8 years with Deloitte in the Big Four in LA and London. I then went and worked for 8 years at a global advertising firm doing all risk and compliance and governance and audit and all of that kind of stuff. I started and led their very first enterprise data analytics monitoring team that meant to leverage the enterprise-wide data. I've since gone to do financial advisory work for Connor Group and have now moved on to doing full-time AI, and I've never been more excited to sign in on Monday mornings.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. And I know that Connor Group has a great internship program and that you engage with students in training around AI there. So really happy to have you on. And then last but not least, we have Conrad.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all today. My name is Conrad Burnell, and I currently work as an AI-focused product manager at SAP. We are one of the world's largest enterprise software companies. What that means is we basically build, deliver, and maintain the software that runs other businesses. So whether that's their financial, warehousing, stock keeping, or HR functions, anything you can imagine that runs businesses, we build it. I've spent the last 9 years since my graduation from Santa Clara working here. I studied marketing and graduated in 2016. And that entire time has been spent working with SAP's customers to kind of understand how we can enhance and improve how they work on these massive company-wide systems, basically, and help them focus on the actual business problems that matter rather than getting bogged down in all the procedure. So I started working here after I graduated in 2016. I started out in marketing, working on solutions that kind of enhance how people make their way through the software. I also ran a development team for a little while before landing in product management. So really excited to be here and talk about some of the stuff we're working on. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, for this first question, Casey, I'd like to start with you. From your experience, what impact has AI had on your industry and the workforce thus far?
Well, I think from my role being a professional advisory firm, it's kind of a twofold thing. So I'll kind of touch really on both lightly with a light touch here. But as an advisory firm, AI is absolutely of all of the industries that are going to be impacted by AI, professional advisory is top of the list. I mean, maybe coding and then professional advisory, because basically what we do, how we run is organizations pay us for our knowledge and our advice. And one of the things that AI is most phenomenal at is knowledge and advice. So it is very much cut to the core of I think all professional advisory firms, and I think all professional services as well, including law and so forth, that we have to really reevaluate where our value is in the process. So that is foundational, like rocking us to our core. And I think that that's similar everywhere. For individuals at our organization, what we have found is we've invested very heavily in our training and upskilling program. And, just putting the tools in people's hands doesn't really do much of anything. What we have found is that it really does require incentive, that we've got to figure out what the incentive is for each and every one of our professionals to go and become an AI augmented professional. So, some professionals are just interested in playing with AI, but others are very, very curious about what this is going to do with their long-term trajectory, not just with our firm, but, as they become alum of our firm. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Awesome. Conrad?
Yeah. So I think one of the neat things about working in enterprise software is that our software truly touches kind of everyone working in an organization, right? So that's from, the people that work in the C-suite, the executives trying to figure out how their companies are running, all the way to people working in warehouses, all the way to people delivering things, all the way to people doing financial transactions. And so all of these people are all hearing and using AI solutions to augment their lives in some way, whether that's personal or professional. And what that means for us is that the expectations that we can somehow integrate AI to enhance their user experience is absolutely expected and absolutely a necessity. But kind of the fun part on our end, working in the enterprise space, is it's our job to solve companies' problems, basically, right? To build software that helps solve problems. So the fun part is not to just create AI for AI's sake, because we can do that, but rather to figure out how we can use AI to solve meaningful business problems. And so that's kind of one of the fun challenges that my team is undertaking right now. But yeah, to wrap it up in summary, people are expecting AI interactions across everything they do at work and at home, and we're trying to meet those needs and help people work better.
Yeah, very interesting. Jeff?
I enjoy cross-pollinating across different industries as a consultant and advisor. Cybersecurity lets me do that. I'd say from various industry perspectives, healthcare is a pretty resilient area. I think that's going to be a little more AI proof. It's definitely up leveling the quality of care, extending all the way into research. So synthetic chemistry using drug discovery, great opportunities there. Education, I'm an adjunct professor here at Santa Clara. I see it radically reshaping the nature of education and the relationship between the educator and the student, mostly in positive ways, but also questionable ways. And on research as well. And when I've worked in high tech as like a VP of IT or head of cybersecurity, um, it's affected the way our coders operate. So I've seen productivity enhancements. It is affecting opportunities for entry level, but advanced software engineers are getting 20, 30% plus productivity boost from these tools. It comes with concern for me from, are they still being conscientious about, good security practices in their coding? And I'll talk about a few other examples I'm seeing as we go. I volunteer producing the CineQuest Film Festival locally here in San Jose, and we did an AI day last year with the mayor and other folks, and seeing how it's reshaping our government services, and that's a positive. Like systems drive around finding potholes automatically, and really boosting creativity output. And that's probably one key takeaway I'd say is emphasizing the creativity component of what humans add to the equation is not going to go away.
I love that. And I think there's so many meaty topics that you touched on, Jeff, there. Like you mentioned, like the interaction between faculty and students, and how that will look with AI coming in. So I'd love to hear you kind of talk more on that, especially with this being an audience of a lot of students. And your other point around like how coding is becoming more efficient, but then the ethics behind that, I hope that you'll get a chance to dive into that more too.
Great.
So Kim, let's have you kind of round out this question in terms of the impact that AI has had so far.
Sure. So from a talent acquisition or recruiter lens, what we're noticing is it's impacting more so on entry-level type of roles, like within talent acquisition, like interviewing, scheduling, and some of the easier tasks that are moving to AI level of service, like the bots. Recruiters who are doing sourcing, there's more opportunity for recruiters to source through AI, sourcing candidates through AI. And how they're getting candidates and generating are more heavily focused on AI generation of candidates. The role of a recruiter is changing from a from an AI sourcing role more to a strategic business partner role because AI is allowing a recruiter to have the opportunity to be more flexible and generate more candidates through AI sourcing than before. The positive thing is that there are so many more ways now that recruiters are now able to source and find candidates outside of their traditional LinkedIn, Indeed, and Monster than they've had in the past. There's different techniques that allow them to be much more strategic in the work that they're doing. We're also seeing companies are looking to AI for entry-level kinds of work. So the skill is, one of the things, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, is moving into learning how some of the AI courses and work that the students could be learning more about. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But recruiters are learning more about how to source and find candidates more strategically through AI.
Absolutely. And I think the point you made around the impact that it's having to people who are starting their career, I think that's a lot of the reason that we're doing this event is that we want students to feel like they know what to expect, but that they're prepared for it because it is kind of a big change, right? So with that, I want to pivot to the next question. And Jeff, I'd like to start with you. What do you think is on the horizon for AI and the impact that it will have in the years to come?
I'll tell you the first thing I can say definitively is that none of us really know. This technology transcends our current human knowledge. And as we move to potential superintelligence, general artificial intelligence, which is a theory, but that systems can be smarter than people, we're buckle up for a very interesting ride. I encourage folks to think about these things in creative ways. And just like with cybersecurity, as I select folks for my teams, to embrace a hacker mindset. Um, so, um, I've gone to this Las Vegas giant hacking convention called DEF CON. They have an AI hacking village there. And so getting comfortable testing systems and the boundaries of systems and how they work and having a systems thinking perspective, and not being intimidated that the human beings play this vital role. Our impression of what AI is creates a certain reality. So if we think it's smarter than us, that actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, Find ways to outsmart these systems. So if you're booking an airline ticket to go home now, companies are using AI to outsmart you with its pricing schemes, for example. When you use AI systems, don't talk about your own beliefs directly. Talk about, like, this is a way to engineer prompts, because that creates a profile of you. So say someone is researching this topic, not I am. And think very consciously about your privacy, because AI is going to erode our privacy more quickly than any other technology, because it understands these very intimate things. Nothing you share is private. So there's a lot to understand about how the technology works, and it's a actively moving needle right now. So read about Sam Altman and why he thinks this is the best time for students to be starting a new career. Look at Bill Gates and Jensen Huang and what they're publishing on which career areas are most impacted. Um, Great, probably the most futuristic viewpoint is Geoffrey Hinton, who left Google, and he's Nobel Prize winner in AI and physics, and understand why he's so afraid, why he left Google just to be able to speak publicly about that. So it's a big, meaty topic, and it's going to transform our lives in a way, even the smartest people cannot fully comprehend yet.
Absolutely. Conrad, I'm curious to hear what you add on this topic.
Yeah, I love that, Jeff. That's a super cool intro, and especially kind of the systems-based thinking. I think more from a trend perspective, because I loved like kind of the philosophical and like also realistic part, Jeff, that you brought in, is the trends we're watching and the things we're working toward now is more agentic AI. So the idea of instead of AI completing a single task, hey, please write this email for me. Hey, please write this term paper for me. Like, whatever. Instead of those more typical approaches, rather AI being able to execute a sequence of things, right? So for example, perhaps being able to do parts of what might be, as we pointed out, an entry-level job, right? And kind of filling that niche. So that's really where our focus is on now, is in trying to help people work smarter, work more intelligently, and actually execute things that perhaps would run in the background, or small things that have an impact on your day, but aren't maybe super important in the grand scheme of things. We want you to be able to focus on kind of the wider business problems and be able to solve those. And so for us, that's why agentic AI is a drive. Ultimately, what I think it means for people just joining the workforce, entry level people, is I think, as Jeff mentioned, you're going to have a wider, kind of more system based understanding of what you're doing, because you're going to have to interact with these agents. These agents are going to do the entry level things that perhaps you would have once done by hand. Now you will be able to differentiate yourself by saying, hey, I know how to effectively use these agents to get my job done. So that's kind of the one big trend we're following right now, or one big trend we're interested in right now.
I love that. And I think like the idea of being cautious about the reality and then seeing the potential, I think you've described a way that can kind of come together, right? Kim, I'd like to hear what you think in terms of what's on the horizon for AI.
So I have the human side still. So the horse is out the gate, and AI is going to be there, and the needle's going to keep getting moved. But there's still that human factor of this all. And so for students, as you look into careers, of course, you've got to keep thinking about AI and how it's impacting that industry. And what are those tools that you need and the resources that you need to be successful 5 years, 10 years out. But also you have to continue to gain those skills those human skills and to continue to take those courses and those certifications and look at those soft skills, like continuing to learn how those interpersonal skills, communication, networking, strategic thinking, emotional intelligence. And I have a son who just recently graduated and super smart, I think. And, and I try and tell him that, all of those AI tools and all of those tools you've learned in school, but you've got to know how to engage with people. You have to continue to know how to interact with people. There's that whole human factor that you have to know how to have. And AI is going to be there, and it's going to continue to change and it's going to continue to evolve. But there's a human side that you have to know how to network and meet with people. And there's that art of networking. And as much as as much as AI is going to continue to drive it, you gotta still be able to push it through and know how to strategically help move it and influence it as well.
Can I
Absolutely.
chime in real quickly there?
Please, yeah.
First of all, applause is allowed, correct? Thank you. I'd love to hear that. Um, for everyone that's participating right now, this is not a passive experience. This is your opportunity to up level. When I go to events and I want to connect with speakers, because like on LinkedIn, I don't accept invitations from people I don't actually know. But if I engage, I spoke to the CEO of Oracle about their AI program. And so we had an exchange. So now he knows who I am. And so ask a question, put your name in there, and then follow up and connect to the person. Like do it now. This is the hack. It's not optional. It's like, if you want to get plugged in, this is the game.
Absolutely, Jeff. And I tell my son all the time, and he thinks I know nothing. Let me just say that first of all. I've been in talent acquisition forever, and I tell him it's not a one and done. It is not, and it's not about today, but it's about tomorrow. So when you connect with someone, it's a continuum. It's a continuum. It's a once a month, it's a once a quarter. It's, hey, how you doing? It's, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, happy holidays. Hey, this is what's going on. Yes, Melissa, you're right. Network, network, network. It's the book of old. Continue to do it.
Yes, and that relationship building, I agree with both of your points. I think it will become even more important to put yourself out there because that's like a lot of the value that you bring as a human versus AI, right?
Absolutely.
So Casey, I'd like to have you kind of round this one out in terms of what's on the horizon. And if you want to take it in a different direction too, please feel free.
I mean, my goodness, those are three phenomenal answers. I would agree with all of those. I mean, my own personal perspective when you raise this question to me is I immediately think of mission. Because what I immediately think of is that AI is going to remove arbitrage. So businesses that run on arbitrage are going to go away. AI is going to demolish operations. So organizations that have won based on better operations are also going to struggle. I think where the separation is going to be is on mission, getting very clear on our mission and what we're going to be doing as an organization. And that, to me, is what is missing when you see the AI news. We did these AI pilots and they failed. What were you doing? Did you have a strategy? Did you know where you wanted to go? All of that kind of stuff. I think that's absolutely critical. I think that as individuals, it's going to be all the more important that we are mission focused. What is it that we want to do? What type of organization do we want to be a part of? And I think enthusiasm and drive and that kind of thing is actually going to be what truly separates people. I want to be a part of you, X, Y, and Z company, because I see where you're going, I see who you're serving, and I want to be a part of that ride. I think that that's really where it's going. When I think about it specifically for my industry, just because I know that that's in the question, my industry is professional services. And what I do know is that professional services is one of the oldest careers in the entire world, because what it is, in effect, is that you are buying a fractional share of an expert. Instead of hiring a full-time expert, you're buying a fractional share of it. You're saying, I just want 12 hours of a tax specialist. I just want 15 hours of an estate planning specialist. That will always be there. But what it is that we deliver and how we deliver it is going to be fundamentally changed. We are no longer going to be able to charge time and materials. That's what a professional services firm does. Nobody's going to have any appetite for buying time and materials anymore. It's going to be, what revenue did you generate for me? What improvement in gross margin did you provide for me? Like this is going to be what we are going to have to deliver and have to measure and have to own up to moving forward. But I absolutely think professional services is going to be as big or not bigger than ever. It's just, foundationally changed.
I love that. And in this moment, I am wishing that I was an English major because that was my first time hearing arbitrage and first time saying it as well. But yeah, I'd love to just hear you kind of elaborate more, like what you think that would look like for a student at Connor Group or just anywhere in terms of how they can show up and, be ready for all that change that's coming with AI, Casey, just before we move to the next question.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief. But I do think that the hardest thing for a student is to know what you want to do. In a lot of ways, we go to school because we are kicking the can down the road for, an inevitable future that we don't know where it is that we want to go. But I think the sooner that we get clear on what it is that lights us up, the sooner that we have a direction. Because what I can say is what is most compelling to me, especially the more I grow in my career and the more influence I have, is interacting with people that share my passion. And I can say that leaders and organizations are the same way. If you share their passion, it will be very clear. That is how you're going to stand out, and I think as an 18 to 22-year-old, 18 to 28-year-old, gosh, that is so incredibly hard to define. But there's got to be something in you that is like, I am passionate about solving this issue or dealing with this group of people or whatever it is. I think that that's a key unlock.
I love that. And I think we were talking a little bit about this when we first met, Casey, but it's kind of like that exploration that people can do, and a lot of roles that might have been seen as very tedious for someone entry level before, like accounting, will become more strategic and there will be more opportunity there. So I think this is actually a good time for students to explore and think about like the human side of what kind of impact they want to make after. So with that, let's pivot to the next question here. We've touched on how this is impacting students, of course, and it can feel overwhelming, I'm sure. I hope that people feel comfortable to ask questions because it is a kind of a big topic, right? But Kim, I know you have some personal experience that you've mentioned, so I want to start with you with this next question. Can you kind of tell us what skills that you think will be the most important for students to stand out in a job search? Because that's kind of like that first step.
Yeah, I think for me, one, being curious, you're new in this, be curious. And I always say this, and I keep referencing my son, where you start is not where you end up. I started out as a criminology major and I wound up in HR. Who knew? Just be curious and be adventurous and take those internships because those internships and those skills and those opportunities, a lot of them are transferable. And when you go into the real world today, and these new job requirements are saying recent college grad, and then you look through the job descriptions and they say 2 years of experience. And I went through this with my son. He's like, Mom, these new recent college grad job opportunities say 2 years of experience. Well, if you've done a 2-year internship, those are skills that you can transfer. In a lot of them, you can transfer into some of these new jobs. So make sure you're doing these internships and make sure that you are getting those skill sets, getting those experiences, those soft skills, or just some of those required skills that you can take and move along with you. So I say that. when you are looking, before you're even looking for a job, um, if you target companies, if you're targeting a company, look at companies you may want to work for when you graduate, and get your list of companies and look at what are some of the requirements or some of the skills that those companies are looking for. Um, and so when I say that, look at those skills, look at those companies, look at those people who are working in those companies. Find out who they are. Target some of those people in there. Start building your network. Start reaching out to some of those people. Start building your network within LinkedIn, making those connections. That is really what LinkedIn is for. It's about building those connections in there, and it's that whole 6 degree of separation. Um, I've had my son building his connections for years now, and it's that 6 degree of separation. So use LinkedIn to your fullest about making those connections. Um, and and there are a lot of different easy, quick certifications that you can get and you can pull up. And even on LinkedIn, you can get them. But I say go for those low-hanging fruits, and those it's like the snowball. They continue to build. And so those are some things some of the suggestions that I make.
I love that, Kim. And I love your point around like researching companies and what's on their job descriptions, because like for us in talent acquisition, we know that that's information out there of skills that are important to different companies, right? So there's always kind of a way that you can start that research without feeling like you have nowhere to start, right?
Right.
Um, awesome. Casey, I'd like to jump to you in terms of what skills will stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly echo Kim's curiosity. I think curiosity is critical. I do think that having personality is also critical. Having alignment, as I sort of mentioned before, very important. One of the what my mind gets triggered on here is that what we have found as far as being an employee, that definition has eroded enormously over the last sort of 50 years. Like I'm sort of 20 plus years into my career, and I know that when I started, I had a lot of nervousness over the lack of security and stability and future that would be available to me. Like I went in fully knowing that the environment that I was going into was far less secure and far less knowable. And I do think that we're in a place where that is completely eroded now. There is no play that you can make where you're going to be like, well, in 14 years, I'm going to be a partner, or in 12 years, I'm going to be a whatever. Like that's absolutely gone. But what that does open up, because with each sort of erosion, it opens up so much more opportunity and the expectation that you as an individual are going to be seeking that opportunity and that organizations are going to be looking to source new opportunity when they come in. It's a lot more fluid. Like if you wanted to change careers in sort of the 50s or 60s, I mean, good luck, right? Leaving your firm would have been blasphemy in a lot of places. Nowadays, it's completely open. So I do think that is a key part is the appreciation that this is a give and take. You must add value that's commensurate with the compensation that you're getting from your firm. It's got to be a give and take. And if you can look at it in that way and you can build the skills towards the direction you want to go, I think that that's an excellent skill. So a lot like the personality of a student. A lot of 18-year-olds when they go into university, they're kind of know where they want to go, but not really. And a great university like a Santa Clara is going to let students sort of navigate to get to a place where when they get their final degree and they stand on the podium and have their name read, they have an education that supports where they want to go. And in a lot of ways, I feel like that's going to be the continuum for, this early period post-grad for folks.
I love that. And that's probably the perfect transition to Jeff, since you're educating our students. So want to hear your thoughts on what skills will stand out.
Oh, perfect. I've been a little distracted because I've got some side conversations in the chat with students
Oh,
now.
awesome.
So, and my general offer to Santa Clara students, I guess any students, is in Charney Hall, where I teach our new law school building, which is beautiful. Thursdays today from 4:15 to 5:30, I have office hours in the atrium. So folks are welcome to come and chat with me there. Um, so what stands out? I get to be a proud papa for a minute. Also, my daughter graduated from San Francisco State a few months ago, and in kinesiology. And initially, when she chose that major, I rolled my eyes a little bit. I said, "Oh, if it's not engineering, law, or business, like you're not going to make any money." And I'm like, now I'm being corrected. She has been prescient. She has had a better view of the future than I did. If you're going into healthcare, if you're going into um, teaching, or any of the physical trades, maintaining building stuff, those are going to be a little more future-proofed jobs. But I shared, so Annabelle, my daughter, was asked to give a keynote address. So I put a link on there. So the energy and enthusiasm she has for her profession, I look for that in people I'd want to hire. They have a vision, they have a mission like Casey talked about. Um, so what else stands out? The hacker mindset, thinking creatively, embracing that, being comfortable at being uncomfortable. That's worth repeating. I'm being professorial now. Get comfortable at being uncomfortable. Asking questions, thinking in unusual ways. That's the basis of superb prompt engineering. Be very protective of your privacy means you can be very protective of an organization's privacy and keeping secrets. So in cybersecurity, which is still a hot career area, I had the question, how does that affect folks doing penetration testing? And it affects every aspect of cybersecurity profoundly. The number of automated attacks against organizations has increased 12-fold or more since generative AI has taken hold. So the other thing that stands out for me, and I think it's a call to action, is examining and really connecting with your own humanity. It's counterintuitive, but the people aspect. So, what will differentiate any job, any function that can be automated, which is happening already pretty aggressively? Um, but can you demonstrate to me that you're living an examined life, that you're applying critical thinking to your behavior, that you're embracing the things that make you uniquely human, and how can you uh, enhance your consciousness as a human being and bring that to the workplace to elevate the organization's thinking? It's a little philosophical, but universities get to do that, right?
No, I love that. Conrad, we'll have you end on this question around skills that will stand out for students in their job search.
Okay, yeah. I think there's a couple different ways to take it, but I think I basically want to echo everything that everybody has said. So, it's AI it's an exciting innovation, right? It's one of the bigger innovations of our time. It allows us to do more efficiently, right? Or explore areas we may not have explored before, maybe don't understand as fully. And it helps us, be more confident in our decision making. But I'd say in general, the rules themselves about, becoming a young professional haven't changed. So, exactly as Kim said, it's still exactly about being curious and trying new things and being open to new things. For you, that might be experimenting with AI technologies and understanding how they can augment your job search or augment how, you do your first job. That's definitely true. And I think also, Kim, what you said about flexibility is still inherently true. We can't assume that what brought us success in the past will bring us success now, right? So be open to things that perhaps you hadn't thought of. I mean, so when I graduated from Santa Clara, I studied marketing. I did marketing for a moment, and then all of a sudden I was in software development. All of a sudden I was in product management. So stuff I could not have predicted because I was out there being curious, trying new things, wanting to challenge myself a little bit. And I think you can still do that within the context of AI. I don't think that makes any of it go away. I think, if anything, it just helps you explore those things a little bit further. Um, and so you can really stand out just by being educated and trying these things. And as Jeff said, experimenting carefully, but also kind of embracing this hacker mindset and then pushing things, pushing boundaries, and trying to understand what's new. I think that really, really impresses everyone. So Yeah, I mean, I can say this much, being involved with hiring entry-level folks, especially interns here at SAP, um, being showing that you experiment and play with new tools is a huge part of it, right? It's not cheating, it's not running from anything. If anything, we expect it now. We want to see how you play with AI tools. We want to see how you use AI to solve problems because, yeah, we don't want to see you waste a bunch of time on a simple problem when you could be focusing on a bigger issue, and using that to get it out of the way. But that assumes, again, that your fundamentals are solid, which they will be coming from a lovely place like Santa Clara.
Awesome. Well, this is actually another really natural transition to a question that we got in chat, and we've received a lot. So thank you all in the audience. So we'll try to get through hopefully as many of these as we can in the last 20 minutes here. But Daniel asked, how do you suggest employees advocate for using AI if their organization is hesitant? So Conrad, you were sharing SAP is very encouraging of that, but what if they're working for a company that is kind of against adopting AI tools? And Conrad, we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, to use an AI word, it is highly context dependent. You need to kind of set context in order for this to work. The first thing I would say, to be candid and honest with everyone here, is that jobs are important, and I would be very, 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 very careful with the way you introduce AI into your systems in your workplace. Exactly as Jeff just said, it's a very powerful technology, and you can unintentionally give up a lot of very, very personal and private information. So before, I say, hey, go use it for everything. Working in the context of SAP. So as I mentioned, it's enterprise software. We're in all of these businesses. We are subject to a lot of very, very, very strict data privacy and protection regulations internally, as well as laws across the world. So this is something that's very, very top of mind for us. And so I wouldn't say, throw AI at anything. That said, if I were to build a business case, and I'm sure Casey can help build a perfect business case, but I think it's really about being able to highlight inefficiencies or showing areas where things could be done faster, and don't necessarily require manual intervention on your part. So if there's quick content creation is a great example, things like writing emails or things like drafting, small short-term proposals for things. Those might be great, easy, low risk places to get started, without scaring people too much. Uh, but yeah, I think I'll hand it over maybe to Casey, who might be able to talk about building a better business case, first.
Yeah, I mean that's immediately where my mind went, is
Mhm.
that there must be alignment between what it is that you're attempting to do and what it is that the organization is attempting to do. If you are in an
Mhm.
organization that is not into AI and you really want to be an AI, that may be an irreparable difference. I mean, that's the honest to goodness truth. But where it must start is going through your normal, every organization is going to have an IT requisition process. So going through your normal IT requisition process and defining the business case is the foundation. And I think what you would want to do is elicit some additional support before you put the request in. So if it's just one employee requesting one tool for one obscure thing, it's probably not going to happen, especially if you're in an organization that doesn't like AI a whole lot. But if there is an upswelling from sort of your group of employees that this could have a meaningful difference, you could be open to some receptive ears, because every board out there is asking their executives, how am I putting AI, or how are you putting AI into your organization? How are you staying agile for AI? How are you forecasting or preparing for what your organization is look like in 2030? And in every one of those scenarios, AI is there. So, but it really does take understanding the constraints that you're in. That's my honest assessment there.
Mhm.
Awesome. Jeff and Kim, anything to add before we go on to the next question?
I
Yeah.
think they've hit it on the head.
Awesome.
I think there's a great opportunity for students. Students don't understand the power they have by having that student status. So when you're in an organization, it opens doors you cannot imagine. Say, I'm working on this class, I'm working with Professor Klaben, and I'm not even taking his class, but he's giving me some advice and learning how to examine where AI might add value. The trick here is do not oversell the potential, undersell the potential. What organizations are doing right now is trying AI, and those projects are failing, and they're going to keep failing. And that is the art of innovation. And we've got some wonderful classes in our business school on product management and innovation. So learning about the 8 Ps of marketing and how you would position AI as something that contributes to the value of products or services that you're offering, and say, we just need to test this out. As a student, I'm getting exposure to some of the leading thinking, and I recognize there's potential value, and I'm curious. Say that word 8 times to everyone you talk to. I am curious because it's valuable, and you have time to be curious. So, say, I would love to, on my own time, initiate, a little project, not with a lot of people, just with a small people, because these breakthrough projects involve small groups, not massive efforts, and propose something and knock on people's door. Um, Recognize that AI is a huge risk, and for folks in cybersecurity, it's terrifying that data exfiltration can happen at a magnitude we never had before. And once the data goes out, it gets ground up into little chunks that are irretrievable. So don't just start using it, right? Work through the folks who understand how to protect the information. Reach out to the chief information security officer and say, what guidelines do you have? And anytime you say, I don't know, say, I would be happy to help you figure that out. Even if you don't know, because you're a student, students figure stuff out.
If you're interviewing with a company, let me just say this. If you're interviewing with a company that is not interested in AI, I would question that, because the floodgates are open. And we're in a world now where everything is pretty much AI. I wouldn't count it out, but if that's where you're going with it, then if it's a company that is not interested in it, then you may want to go with a company that has the same interest and passion that you're interested and passionate in.
Or you're just talking to the wrong person in the company. If the job description says value, if it says the word innovation, operations, efficiency, customer, anything, any services firm
Right.
has a responsibility to deliver quality services efficiently, and AI is just becoming part of that. So
Yes.
talk to somebody else in the company.
I
Yes.
love that. And I agree, right? Like with this question, you don't have to feel hopeless if you are feeling like you're not encouraged to use it. I think Jeff laid out a really good way to kind of approach that conversation as a student. And I, having been on the recruiting side, I can say that that's a huge appeal in bringing interns and students on board, is that they do have the latest education on any particular topic. So I love that. That's a great answer there.
Be curious.
Yes,
Be,
absolutely.
and I guess if I could just add one more thing to exactly what Jess said and exactly what you said, Mary, about being curious. I think a lot of times, and we see this with like new colleagues at the entry level, they are so afraid to ask questions or look like they're silly or look like they don't know something they should know. And I will say at that point in your career, it's absolutely expected to have what you might feel are simple questions, but in reality, they're not.
Right.
You have license to, and I use the term just because you know what I mean, to ask dumb questions. Do that. Be curious. No one is going to get upset. And as Jeff said, you can actually use it in a way to push innovation through. Because, hey, I'm just new here. I'm just learning the ropes. I'm not bound by the same restrictions or kind of politics that you are. I'm brand new here. I'm just trying to understand. And a lot of times you can push things through. So I just wanted to highlight that too.
I love that. All right, well, we have a lot of questions. If it's okay, I'm going to move to another one here. This is from Nirmala, and she asked, how can professionals tell which AI tools are hype versus the ones that will truly shape their future careers in their industry? And I'll see who wants to start that off.
I mean, this one's near and dear to my heart. I mean, our firm is all about technology deployments. I mean, that is where we're at. So my door is constantly being beaten down by the newest and greatest tool that's out there. So to a large extent, I am the first gate that these tools have to go through, at least for the type of use cases that our clients want and sort of the back office and operations side of the house. I do think that what's foundationally critical is, do they have a business use case? Like, are they solving a problem? Or is this just a cool tool? And that filters out like half of them almost right away. Like if you know anything about AI, like the difference between what's just kind of cool to like look at versus something that's actually built to solve a problem. So I think that's one key area. The other key area is the problem worth solving? And is there any desire to solve it? Because there are a lot of tools that are out there that are solving problems that nobody really cares about, or there's no budget to solve it. So this is another thing that I would say. And then I guess the last gate that I personally use is that if the tool is just a chat experience or it's just an AI builder, it's going to be absorbed by the big players. OpenAI and Claude and all of them, they are going to absorb all of the chat experience. For sure, it's a given. And if it's an agent building tool, that's either going to be absorbed by the big players or it's going to be made so incredibly useful and easy that anybody can build any agent for anything. And so, those to me are the biggest tells between something that's a flash in the pan and something that's not. What is very different about AI, before I sort of wrap this up, is that I have personally seen technologies evolve from something that was just an idea to a full-fledged product in like 9 months. It used to be years to do this. And I've seen it just, like skyrocket. So I don't think it's going to be the quality of the user experience. I don't think it's going to be the, all of that kind of stuff that really separates it. I really think it's about the mission and sort of, is this solving a problem that somebody wants to have solved?
Awesome. And Nirmala, she is the student that asked the first question. She has a follow-up question, and it sounds like she's interested in a similar industry in terms of finance. So Casey, just as a follow-up to that, what key skills should finance professionals focus on developing to stay competitive long-term in their career?
I mean, I think this is probably going to be across the board. I think that the advice from this group in general is going to be very helpful. But more than anything, I think it's about being open to being an apprentice. I think that that's going to be the key, because when you do play with AI, you see its limitations. Even as it evolves, like the AI specialists in your organization are constantly looking at where its limitations are. And that's where you're going to need the specialism. And you're only going to sort of be able to climb that mountain if you are apprenticing with somebody that knows that's where you want to be, So like to me, I feel like that's probably the big opening is being open to being an apprentice.
May I
Awesome.
add to that?
Yes.
So I love Nirmala's question here. I think a couple of ways to really engage with the tools and understand what's valuable is to become part of a community. And you also have a license to request an informational interview with anybody and talk about what their perspective is and what they're using. And, Conrad, I'm going to pick you. Somebody might reach out to Conrad and say, great talk. SAP, does SAP know about finance? Yes, it does. They are the leading ERP, enterprise resource planning software tool that operates the finance of the biggest businesses in the world. So they know a thing or two about what's working. And Conrad, I'm speaking for you, correct me if I'm wrong, meeting a curious student and saying, this is how we met. I'd like to introduce you around and, help the student with some research. It also benefits folks like us because look, we look innovative now. I would say suggest, leveling up your research skills. I am so obsessed with this right now. I'm kicking off my first session of a new law class in cybersecurity law, and I have a law librarian coming to guest speak because this area is moving fast enough that research skills are vital to understanding. It's not like you can memorize things and they're not going to change anymore. So remember, it's not just a tool. Architecturally, there's the tools, there's the engines. Hugging Face is another example of one. It's the corpus. The corpus is the body of data that the system is trained on. So you can have the same tool trained on different bodies of data. And then there's augmentation called a RAG, retrieval augmentation. So Oracle is having some breakthroughs there because they have the databases. So you have the tool plus the database and the right types of augmentation tools, that architecture becomes super valuable. In finance, you want to get really strong on the quantitative stuff around modeling. Check out a tool called Wolfram Alpha if you want, and they, I think, are now integrated in some of the other generative AI tools. But learning that and learning the connective tools that create workflows of AI will give you an advantage.
Awesome. I'm going to do a quick time check, which is that we have only a few minutes left, and there are a few really great questions that we probably won't have time for around AI versus simple automation, how this is impacting healthcare, and then how we would define effective AI agents. So I think, Jeff, you brought up a great point, which is continue to have informational interviews with people that you can get connected with on some of those questions that you have, because they're great questions. I'm really impressed. Let's end on this last question from Emma. If you were a student at Santa Clara right now, what skills related to AI would you prioritize developing to prepare you for future career opportunities?
Oh, I have one novel idea here that I'm trying to give the out of the box answer because there's a lot of great obvious answers. Go learn about the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics. During an interview, what differentiates your education? It's not hyper religious, but the fact that Santa Clara is a Jesuit university, and Jesuits are the folks who explain the world to people, explain the way the world works to people. The Markkula Center for Applied Ethics teaches folks a framework for ethical thinking. So when I speak to someone and I pose like this trolley problem with AI, like do you let the trolley crash into one group or another, and you can look that up. If you say one course of action is ethical or not, that's linear thinking. What I'm looking for is robust critical thinking that you can apply different frameworks, different standard ethical criteria, and saying, depending on this scenario, this is how I would evaluate it. So your ability to apply critical thinking in areas like ethics will differentiate you, and that's a place where Santa Clara leads across the world.
I love that. And we have 1 minute. Kim, do you want to wrap us up with just the last advice you have for the students here?
So, and Mary, just repeat the question just really quickly.
Yeah. So what skills related to AI would you prioritize for your future?
I would say I'm practical about things. So and this is from a TA hat. Yeah, I would go in and I would take some courses, I would take some certifications, I would just take some quick wins. I would even go in like to LinkedIn, and you see AI courses all the time on LinkedIn, some practical AI quick win courses. I would go in and run queries on people who are in talent acquisition. I would talk with recruiters. I would set up some times with recruiters who manage so that they can tell me about companies that are looking for people with AI, who may be looking for companies that have that AI entry level kinds of roles, and set up some informationals or just do some basic networking. Those are kinds of things that I would do. Just touch points with people to learn.
Awesome. Like the low-hanging fruit, I think
The
that's a
low-hanging
great
fruit.
place to leave it. Don't feel overwhelmed. I hope that all of you feel a little more informed going into the future. Thank you so much for being here. We're right at the top of the hour, so thanks for joining.
Thanks for the invite.
Awesome.
Thank
Good
you.
luck,
Thank you,
everyone.
folks. This has been fun. Take
Yeah, you
care.
all
Have a
have
good
been
rest of your
great.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
This was great.